You know that feeling when a movie gets so deep into your head that you're still thinking about it days later? That's what we're diving into today. The 2020s have given us some absolute mind-benders, films that don't just scare you with jump scares, but mess with your perception of reality itself. These are the psychological thrillers that'll have you questioning everything. So movie lovers, welcome back to Filmflix, and let's get into it.
This is 476 Barbary, right?
Yeah, I'm renting this place.
No, I booked it a month ago.
Starting off strong, we need to talk about a film that takes the simple premise of an Airbnb mishap and turns it into something completely unhinged. This movie begins so normally. You've got a woman arriving at her rental, there's already someone there, awkward vibes all around. But then it just keeps escalating in the most unexpected ways. I'm talking multiple tonal shifts that shouldn't work but absolutely do. The genius here is how the film plays with your expectations. Every time you think you know where it's going, it pivots into something darker and more twisted. The production design alone will haunt you. There's this basement that becomes increasingly horrifying the deeper you go, both literally and metaphorically. What starts as a thriller about stranger danger transforms into something that explores generational trauma and the hidden horrors lurking beneath seemingly normal facades. I watched this with friends and we spent an hour afterward just trying to process what we'd witnessed. It's bold, it's bizarre, and it's absolutely fearless in its storytelling. This is Barbarian, and trust me, you've never seen anything quite like it. Next up is a film that proves psychological thrillers don't need sprawling locations or huge set pieces to be absolutely gripping. This one takes place mostly in one apartment, and it's all about paranoia in the digital age. Our protagonist is an agoraphobic tech worker who monitors audio streams, and when she accidentally hears evidence of a violent crime, things spiral fast. What I love here is how the film taps into our modern anxieties: surveillance, corporate conspiracy, the isolation of remote work. The director shoots this almost like a Hitchcock film, but with smartphones and smart speakers. There's this incredible sequence where she's trying to leave her apartment and the anxiety is so palpable, you'll feel your own chest tightening. Zoe Kravitz delivers a performance that's all nervous energy and determination. The tight 90-minute runtime means there's zero fat on this thing. It moves at a breakneck pace from start to finish. It's the kind of movie that makes you want to cover your laptop camera and maybe smash your Alexa. KIMI is a paranoid thriller for the 2020s, and it hits different when you're watching it at home, surrounded by all your own devices.
Believed to be absolute truth.
Absolute truth.
Now let's talk about a film that's basically a gorgeous nightmare wrapped in 1940s glamour. This neo-noir follows an ambitious carnival worker who's determined to climb the social ladder by any means necessary. The cinematography here is absolutely stunning. Every frame looks like a painting, with this rich color palette that makes everything feel both luxurious and dangerous. But beneath all that beauty is a story about manipulation, greed, and how far people will go for power. The psychological game between our protagonist and a cunning psychiatrist is absolutely electric. Cate Blanchett plays this character like a spider in a web, and watching her work is mesmerizing. What gets me about this film is how it presents ambition as something both seductive and poisonous. The carnival scene in the first half has this grimy authenticity, and then it transitions into Art Deco elegance that's somehow even more sinister. Guillermo del Toro directs this with such style and precision. It's a slow burn that builds to a devastating finale about the price of ambition. Nightmare Alley is dark, cynical, and absolutely captivating. A psychological thriller that stays with you long after the credits roll.
They found a woman murdered in her apartment.
They're saying the woman had her head cut off.
Here's a film that understands a very specific kind of fear, the fear of not being believed. A young American woman moves to Bucharest with her husband, and she starts noticing someone watching her from the apartment across the street. Sounds simple, right? But the genius is in the execution. This film captures what it's like to be dismissed, to have your very real concerns brushed aside. The director builds dread not through gore or violence, but through lingering shots and the suffocating feeling of being observed. Michael Monroe gives a performance that's all nervous energy and determination.
My dreams.
Alright, this next one is a total trip. Imagine going in 1960s London, the music, the fashion, the nightlife, and having it gradually transform into your worst nightmare. This film starts as this love letter to swinging 60s London, with incredible period detail and vibrant colors. Our protagonist is a fashion student who discovers she can somehow see into the past, experiencing the life of a glamorous aspiring singer. At first, it's intoxicating. The director captures that era with such energy and style. But then the nostalgia curdles into something dark and horrifying. The way this film blends psychological thriller elements with supernatural horror is genuinely unique. There are sequences that'll make you dizzy with how they twist reality and perception. The film explores how we romanticize the past while ignoring its darkness, and how trauma can echo across time. The last act gets genuinely intense with the protagonist trapped between two timelines. I love Edgar Wright's filmmaking, and here he shows a darker, more serious side while maintaining his visual flair. Last Night in Soho is a dazzling, disturbing journey that proves the past isn't always as glamorous as it seems. Before we continue, if you're loving these recommendations, do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It helps us keep bringing you the best movie content. Now, back to our list.
정상에서 떨어지셨다고 봐야지. 저기.
This next film is a romantic crime thriller from one of cinema's most visually distinctive directors. We follow a detective investigating a mysterious death who becomes dangerously obsessed with the victim's widow. What makes this so compelling is how it plays with the detective genre conventions. Our detective isn't the cool, detached professional, but someone who's completely falling apart emotionally. The film is shot like this dreamy, obsessive quality where even ordinary moments feel charged with meaning. Park Chan-wook brings his signature visual style, using mirrors, reflections, and shifting perspectives to show how these two characters are constantly circling each other. The widow is this enigma. Is she innocent, guilty, playing him, being genuine? You never quite know, and that ambiguity is thrilling. There's genuine romantic chemistry here, which makes the suspense even more effective, because you're rooting for something that might be completely doomed. The way the film explores obsession, how it can feel like love, how it can consume you, is both beautiful and disturbing. Decision to Leave is a sophisticated, emotionally complex thriller that proves psychological tension doesn't need chase scenes or shootouts, just two compelling people and the dangerous space between them.
This is what it takes.
Let's talk about a film that turns the assassin thriller into something almost philosophical. This follows a professional hitman who operates with absolute precision. We're talking detailed planning, perfect execution, rigid self-discipline. But when a job goes wrong, his carefully constructed world starts to crack. What's fascinating here is how the film gets inside this character's head. We hear his internal monologue constantly, these mantras about staying focused and emotionless, and gradually we realize he's not as cold as he pretends to be. David Fincher shoots this with his usual meticulous style. Every frame is perfectly composed, every movement deliberate. The action sequences are brutal and efficient, but the real tension comes from watching this man's philosophy crumble. There's dark humor throughout as his narration contradicts what we're actually seeing. Michael Fassbender plays this with such control. He's magnetic even when he's just sitting in a car watching someone. The film strips away all the glamour we usually associate with assassins and shows something more mundane and troubling. The Killer is a stylish, cerebral thriller that's more interested in examining his protagonist's unraveling psyche than giving you traditional thrills, and it's absolutely mesmerizing.
Excuse me?
You don't have to go.
I don't have to go where?
Forward.
This next film is gonna mess with your head in the best way possible. It's a road trip movie, sort of. A relationship drama, kind of. A psychological horror film, definitely. A young woman is traveling with her boyfriend to meet her parents, but she's already thinking about ending things. From there, reality starts becoming increasingly unstable. Time doesn't work right, identities shift, nothing is quite what it seems. Charlie Kaufman wrote and directed this, so you know it's gonna be weird and profound. But this is next level. It's genuinely disorienting in ways that can be uncomfortable. The performances constantly shift as details about the characters keep changing. There's this creeping sense of dread that builds throughout, even though nothing conventionally scary is happening. The farmhouse visit is surreal and awkward in ways that feel like a nightmare. What the film is really exploring is loneliness, regret, and how we construct narratives about our lives. It's deeply sad beneath all the surrealism. I'll be honest, this isn't an easy watch, and it won't give you clear answers, but it's one of those films you'll be puzzling over for days. I'm thinking of ending things as strange, melancholic, and uniquely unsettling, a psychological labyrinth that rewards patience and reflection.
Are you okay?
Here's a film that takes a classic monster story and transforms it into a terrifying exploration of domestic abuse and gaslighting. A woman escapes from a controlling, abusive relationship with a wealthy tech genius. But after he supposedly dies, she starts experiencing things that make her believe he's found a way to become invisible and is stalking her. The brilliance here is how the film makes you feel her paranoia. The camera lingers on empty spaces, and you're constantly scanning for movement. Elizabeth Moss is incredible in this, playing someone who's been so traumatized that she can barely function, yet finds the strength to fight back. The film understands that the Invisible Man isn't just a sci-fi concept. It's a metaphor for how abusers make their victims feel crazy, how they control through fear and manipulation. The tension is relentless because we never know when he'll appear or what he'll do. There are sequences that are genuinely terrifying, using negative space in ways that'll have you holding your breath. The film updates the concept perfectly for modern audiences while delivering serious scares. The Invisible Man is a masterful thriller that's both timely and timeless, proving psychological horror can be just as terrifying as anything you see on screen. And for our #1 spot, we have a film that's essentially a 3-hour interrogation, and somehow it's absolutely riveting. This French courtroom drama follows a woman on trial for her husband's death. Did she murder him? Was it suicide? Or was it an accident? The film meticulously examines their marriage, their arguments, their secrets. What makes this so psychologically compelling is that we never get a definitive answer. Instead, we're constantly reassessing what we think happened based on new information and perspectives. The director doesn't take sides. She presents all the evidence and lets us struggle with the same questions the jury faces. The courtroom scenes are electric, with testimonies that reveal layers of complexity about this relationship. Sandra Hüller gives an incredible performance as someone who might be guilty, might be innocent, and is definitely complicated. There's even this moment where their son's testimony becomes crucial, adding another heartbreaking layer. The film explores how impossible it is to truly know what happens inside a marriage, even for the people in it. It's intellectually engaging without being cold. You genuinely care about these characters, even as you question them. Anatomy of a Fall is a brilliant, sophisticated psychological thriller that won the Palme d'Or for very good reason, and it's an absolute must-watch. And there you have it, 10 psychological thrillers from this decade that prove the scariest place isn't some haunted house, it's inside the human mind. Drop a comment below telling me which of these you've seen and which one messed with your head the most. And if I missed your favorite, let me know what psychological thriller from the 2020s you think deserves recognition. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.